Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are today, going all the way back to the old school itself. We're going to be talking about our top 5 horror movies from the year 1980.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, bitch.
Coriander's with me, Killian, of course. This is going to be a lot of fun, guys, because we've talked about the 80s before, a long time ago. We wanted to kind of update, but specifically talk about 5 apiece that we really enjoy from this year. Coriander, let me start with you. When you think of the year 1980, was this a tough list for you to put together, or was it easy?
Well, it was a little tough.
Okay.
Just because I know there's probably, I don't know, some of these movies, I don't know how well known they are. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just interesting what people are gonna say about our picks. That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, you hit a great point. That's part of what makes this really cool, in my opinion, is that some of these movies might be movies that people either have not seen or never even heard of. So hopefully this will give people some new recommendations and stuff. But Kill, how about you? What was this year like for you as far as picking your favorite movies?
This was the easiest list known to man. No, I'm just kidding. This was hard. This was hard, man. It's interesting. At that time I was a very small infant, pretty much. And unless it was a true gem, it came out in the 80s, in 1980, I probably didn't see it, and didn't start my horror journey to pretty much when you started like watching horror, and by proxy me watching it.
Right.
So it was a lot of things that, like, man, I haven't gone back to from this particular year. So this one was interesting. This one was
I will say this one was interesting to me as well, because and for Coriander, we do a lot of slasher films specifically on Slasher Movie Club, and so some of these were films that we had watched for Slasher Movie Club or did episodes on, but this was supposed to be our favorites, the best of the best. So that's where it got a little interesting for me. But anyways, we're gonna do this the way we usually do it, round robin style. Killian will give his pick first, and then Coriander, and then me. So Kill, let's start off with you. What is your number 5 pick for the year 1980?
Okay, my number 5 is Prom Night. Essentially, just a quick synopsis. It's prom night. Jamie Lee Curtis wants to have fun, and be the prom queen. And there's this guy, he's on the loose, and he's acing people out. For me, I love anything Jamie Lee is in. And this one, it was a very cute slasher. It wasn't too gory, and it was kind of just teens doing teen type things. Leslie Nielsen is her dad, and we love Leslie Nielsen. And pretty much, there was the mystery of who is the killer.
Right.
And people just started getting aced out around the high school, and the prom night will never be the same again.
So, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, shouts out to Carrie.
Very true. Right. Yeah, it was a lot different than how Carrie went, right?
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay, so Coriander, how about you? What did you have at your number 5?
So I have a little flick called Humanoids from the Deep. It's about these humanoid sea creatures that start wreaking havoc on the town, and this local native dude is being, pretty much, it's like, you who's terrorizing us doing all this shit. But it isn't. It was these humanoids that are killing dogs and raping women, and it's a crazy movie. And I guess it's a guilty pleasure, right? Because some people are probably like, what? But yeah, so Humanoids from the Deep.
All right. Yeah, that movie was pretty crazy. I remember when I watched it. It is one of those movies that's kind of like a guilty pleasure, if that's the phrase to use. I mean, it's a little bit of a knockoff on Jaws, you know, in movies of that time period. So in that sense, it's kind of cool, you know. But yeah, it's definitely interesting for sure. All right, now let me just say, my list, there were a couple that obviously had to be on my list, but there were a couple that I was like switching around back and forth, especially for my number 5 pick. But what I wanted to do also with mine is to illustrate some of my favorite films that, you know, maybe people haven't, you know, heard of or maybe seen enough of and so forth. So for my number 5 pick, I actually picked Motel Hell. Now, this is a movie, and Coriander, I don't know if you were there for the watch party on this one. We did a watch party for it, and this one is really crazy, man. And
I think I was for that.
You might have been. It was a fun watch party, man. I don't want to give too much away, but you obviously, you know, from the title and also from the poster work and so forth, it's this movie that has, let's just say, it's a motel that is very special, and it really does some interesting things with the people that get there, that are the customers. And I gotta admit, there were some things that were going on in this movie that I didn't even expect, man. You know, it had a sense of atmosphere. It was a little bit of a comedic edge to it. There was definitely some gore. You know, these two that are running this place, and you know, they kidnap people, unsuspecting travelers and so forth, and it just goes down this huge rabbit hole. I won't give it away, but it's definitely a fun movie, very enjoyable. So anyways, my number 5 is Motel Hell. All right, okay, all right, Kill, let's go to your number 4 pick.
Okay, so my number 4, I had to go a little to Fulci land a little bit. I have City of the Living Dead.
All right.
And essentially, and you know, it's funny, this is one that we all recently reviewed, maybe like 6 months ago, when we were kind of going through the Fulci films and the Hell trilogy. And that was my first time seeing it then. So this one is definitely one that I was just like, well, hey, I have to put that on here now, because, you know, of course, didn't know at the time, oh, this came out in 1980. Right. Great film, great cinematography, great score, and essentially a damn good movie, man, that I feel bad that I didn't know about or didn't see back in the day, or at least when I was a little older, you could watch stuff, you know. So yeah, that's my number 4. And guys, if you haven't seen it, you know, check out our review we did about you know, City of Living Dead and so forth, and definitely check it out.
Yeah, man, it was one of those movies that is just so different. I mean, it's Fulci, so it has a different type of atmosphere. There's a beauty to it, but there's a real gory, disgusting, oozy type of feeling to it as well. And you know, we talked about his Gates of Hell trilogy, which City of the Living Dead is the first one, and then The Beyond, and then House by the Cemetery. But this movie was really good. Christopher George is in it, and you know, I know he's one of your favorites too, Coriander. So definitely, City of the Living Dead is a great recommend, man. Definitely, no doubt. All right, okay, so Coriander, let's go to your number 4.
Okay, so this pick is one that some people are probably like, this isn't horror. It's because there's really not much gore. There's no gore. You know, I don't even know if there's much blood. I can't even think if there's much blood. But it's like a psychological. It makes you think. You know, it's altered states. You have this dude. Yeah, you've got William Hurt, and Drew Barrymore is actually in this movie also. And William Hurt is like this I don't know if he's like a scientist or what the hell he is. I don't know what he is, but he's like mixing drugs and he's yet going into this deprivation tank, and he starts like getting these images of like, you know, I don't want to give too much away, but it's like, you know, man and monkey and, you know, just shit like that, you know. So it's just a crazy movie, and it's one of those endings that it's like, what the hell is going on, and is this happening, you know? So yeah, Altered States is my fourth pick.
Yeah, I remember seeing this movie, and I was a kid. I don't remember how old I was, but I wasn't very
and
old.
It's crazy if you saw this as a kid, because you probably was like, what the hell is, did you get bored? I'm surprised you even finished it.
I didn't get bored. It just freaked me out. Oh, well, I might have been like 13 or something like that. I don't know. But it was at a point when I was watching anything that I could that was horror or even horror adjacent. I think this is horror,
this
but
is
it's
like,
you know,
for like light core horror people, you know, this is something that they could handle. People that don't really like horror, but you know, I don't know, you know, it's easy. Let's just say that in the horror field, you know, genre.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. All right. So my next one, this is a movie that I really, really love this movie. When I first got into this movie, I don't think it stuck with me as much because I was watching so many horror movies at the time when I was like, you know, like 8 years old or so, 9 years old. And, you know, I was just going through as many as I could. We'd go to the video store, we'd rent movies, and I just, you know, get as many as I could, me and my friends watching horror movies and stuff. But then I kind of reacquainted myself with it when I was in my late teens. And then I was able to really appreciate the atmosphere, the cinematography, the music, and obviously a fantastic cast. This had to be on my list. So my number 4 is John Carpenter's The Fog. And look, man, I mean, there's not really a lot that I need to say about this film. It's just a fantastic movie, so well done. It's a modern day ghost story.
Adrienne Barbeau.
Yeah, Adrienne Barbeau's in it, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins, Janet Leigh. It's just stacked with, and others as well. It's just stacked with a lot of the cast and actors and actresses that not only that you really enjoy, but that Carpenter has worked with on multiple occasions. And it's just so well done. I think it's really one of Carpenter's more underrated films. Like, it's got a lot of love, you know, in circles, but I don't think it's as high up on his filmography list as it should be. It's a very, very good movie, and it's a favorite of mine, so I had to have it on my list, and that's what I have at my number 4, The Fog. Okay.
Nice.
All right. Okay, Kill, let's head to your number 3.
Well, you know, I love Jamie Lee Curtis, but I also love John Carpenter, so put it back up. My number 3 is The Fog. And you know, I'm not gonna really, there's not much really I can add to that, but I will say this: like, I love lighthouses, I love little towns, and I love ghost stories. And essentially, this feels like something Stephen King would have written. You know,
that's a good point.
Yeah, it really does. A small town, lighthouses, you know, ghost story. And I do agree with you. This is one of John Carpenter's gems that people kind of, you know, seem to forgot about, you know, but this is a great movie, and you know, Jamie Lee, excellent as always, great cast, great score, great cinematography, and a great ghost story. So yeah, The Fog.
Can I just say too that Adrienne Barbeau, obviously she plays the DJ, and she's got the voice for it.
Well, stay up with me, and I'll figure out some way to keep you occupied.
Adrienne Barbeau is really good in this too.
All right, so Coriander, what do you have at your number 3?
So I love how where we all just love Jamie Lee, and we all, you know, almost pretty much picked a different movie from, you know, it's crazy. She had a great year in 80, okay, because I picked Terror Train. How could you not love Terror Train? You got, and which is pretty cool. You know, these college kids rent out this train for a Halloween costume party, and yeah, you've got someone who's always out for revenge, looking to kill, and Halloween's the perfect night to do it. And yeah, it's a fun Jamie Lee movie. So yeah.
All right, and you got David Copperfield too.
I've never seen this.
Yep. Yeah.
You
need to watch it.
Okay, can you give me a quick synopsis? It's not spoilery. It takes place fully on the train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On Halloween night, and they're all dressed up. Yeah, and you're on a train, man, partying it up, and people are getting slashed up. Yep.
Is there drugs, sex, and alcohol?
Isn't there usually?
It's from 1980, man.
I'm just making sure. All right, Terror Train.
Check it out.
Vanity's in it.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so it's a really
led with that. Okay.
It's a really underrated 1980 slasher, and we did do this as an episode for Slasher Movie Club too, by the way. You know,
check it out.
Yeah, I'll just watch your episode then.
Well, it's a good movie to watch too, though.
You need to watch. Yeah, definitely.
For my number 3, now this is a movie that I think might be the surprise of this whole thing. And not because it's underrated, but it's almost like a forgotten gem to me. You know, I think it's a movie that is very, very effective. The acting is very, very good. It's a story, or I should say, it's a movie that I remember seeing as a kid on one of those Sunday afternoons. You remember, Kill, you know, they'd show movies on Sundays, you know, the afternoons or whatever, and Dad be in the living room, and if we could be in there, that's great, and if not, we'd be in the basement. This is one of those movies that I remember seeing, and all I had remembered at that, you know, when I was a kid, was just bits and pieces of it, and the lead actor. And then I reacquainted myself with it when I was in my late teens, because again, you know, I was trying to, you know, really brush up on my horror. And I watched it, and I just thought it was fantastic. I still think it's great to this day, and it needs to be on more people's lists, especially when you talk about haunted houses. And my pick for number 3 is The Changeling, starring the great George C. Scott. I love this movie. It is so well done, such great atmosphere. Some people would consider it, and I guess I would too, like a slow burn. Now, me personally, I do like slow burns, especially when the story warrants it and when there's a mystery that's trying to be unraveled or solved. This is a perfect example of that movie. There's a couple of scenes in this film that they are kind of famous for, just the tension that they have and so forth. I won't give away any of the story, but just to say that George C. Scott is the lead in the role, and he moves into a very big house that's very creepy, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on in that house that is otherworldly. But again, it's a very grounded film. You know, again, it's 1980, so I think that was a time when, if the movie warranted it, they would let the story play out. So anyways, it's a great film, The Changeling. Not enough people talk about it. At some point, and I've thought about this for a long time, at some point I'd like to maybe go deeper into it, doing, you know, a stream or video on it specifically. But yeah, it's a great film. Big recommend. So number 3 for me is The Changeling. All right, here we go, guys. The top 2. It's time to get serious. Time to proceed with caution, Kill. So what do you have as your number 2 horror film of the year 1980?
Okay, well, a lot of people may not like this film. It's a small little, like, indie kind of 80s horror film. But my number 2 is this story called The Shining. I don't know. Anybody ever heard of that? Is it good? I don't know. This King kid wrote it back in the day and sold the rights for like $1 or something, a pack of gum or something. No, my number 2 is The Shining, and you know, maybe to some people, especially Stephen King, not a great adaptation of his book, but a great movie by Stanley Kubrick. classic movie. I'm not going to talk too much on this because I suspect maybe it will be on other people's list. I don't know. But Jack Nicholson, you know, as always, impeccable, eerie, creepy, an abandoned, you know, hotel with a blizzard going on, and you know, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So
there you go.
That's my
all right.
Check it out if you've never heard of it, guys. Check it out. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's not too shabby, right?
It's all right.
It's all right. Okay. All right. Coriander, what do we have for your number 2?
All right, so this is another movie we talked about on Slasher Movie Club, and it is called Dressed to Kill. It's with Michael Caine, Andrew Dickinson, Nancy Allen, and so many other people. And this is like a real like psychological type of horror movie. It makes you think. You're trying to, you know, who's the killer, you know. People are getting aced out pretty quick in the movie where you're like, shit. And yeah, this is a great whodunit slasher film. And if you haven't seen this, you need to honestly check out this movie because at the end, you're going to be like, what? So yeah. Dressed to Kill.
It's really well done. And this one definitely is one of those films where the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. Directed by Brian De Palma. I mean, this is truly a special movie, even in his filmography, which says a hell of a lot. It's very well regarded critically as well as audiences, and it even had a Criterion edition. So I think it's a great film.
Movie.
When we talked about it for Slasher Movie Club, I had not seen it since I was really young and didn't really remember it.
Yeah, this was the first watch for me was that. So yeah, it's one of those movies where it's like, shit, I wish I had known about this way sooner.
Yeah, it was a movie that I was really glad to kind of get reintroduced to, and especially doing YouTube now, you know, when watching movies, it's much more cemented because of the fact that we talk about them. But this is definitely a movie, especially in Brian De Palma's filmography, that I'm so glad that I got a chance to check out, along with a couple others. We won't talk about that, but this is a great one, a big recommend as well. So
yeah,
very cool.
And any like ladies and gentlemen out there that are Andrew Dickinson fans, you'll enjoy a particular scene in that movie. So there you go.
All right. Okay. All right. So for me, my number 2, this was really it was difficult in a way because I was trying to think of the criteria I made. Okay. Now, my number 2 and my number 1 are both films I absolutely love. Okay. But my number 2 I picked for a specific reason, and it's a film that is fantastic. I watch it very often. We've talked about it before. We've referenced it before. It's a film that I think personally is an all-time classic, but I'm only having it at number 2, and there's a real good reason why. So I'm going to put it up here. My number 2 is The Shining. And look, man, now even Stephen King has started to come around on this because he knows what Stanley did. He knows it's a good movie. Is it a great adaptation specifically of his work? It's not. It's not like true to form adaptation, but I think what Stan Lee did was great for the medium of film. And you've got Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall. And Shelley Duvall, just real quick to say, doesn't get near enough credit for her performance as Wendy. I think she did a hell of a job. From all accounts, what has been said, she dealt with a lot of stress on the set, especially from Stan Lee, just trying to get all these emotional beats out of her. It was almost abusive, to be quite honest, if not being abusive. But she put in a great performance, in my opinion. And of course, Jack Nicholson was amazing. Scatman Crothers, I mean, the imagery, the music, the cinematography, all the little Easter eggs and things like that Stan Lee puts into his films. What more can you say? This is just a fantastic film. One of the greatest, to me anyways, one of the greatest movies of all time, let alone horror, or let alone from the year 1980. So anyways, that's my number 2. The Shining. Okay, guys, let's get down to brass tacks. We're going to our number one kill. Let's see what you got.
Okay, look, there's no lying here. All right, 1980. You know, there was this little movie about a day in the month. My number one is Friday the 13th. So look, this was the easiest spot on the list for me. I'm sorry, no disrespect to The Shining, which was my number two as well. But Friday the 13th changed the game. You know, Friday the 13th, you know, kicked the slasher genre into another level, and it's a classic. You know, so I don't even think I need to talk too long on this. You guys know here on this channel, we love this franchise. We love this movie. Shouts out to Mrs. Voorhees doing God's work. There, look at that smile. Look at those choppas. And all I know is that's a mom through and through. That's what I'm talking about. Mama Bear.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
All right. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay, Coriander, what do you have as your number one?
You got to put that back up. Come on. You got to be real. There you go.
I think you probably just leave it. I don't know.
I don't know. But I mean, seriously, thank God for Mrs. Voorhees and giving birth to Jason, because kudos to her. Good job, man. That should be one proud mama. But yeah, I love this series. And yeah, you know, Killian said it. The love of a mother and the death of a child.
Remember the first time you saw it, what your experience was when you first saw the film?
I was surprised that it was this old woman kicking ass. So yeah, it was great.
What made you watch it, if I may ask?
Well, because like I always told you, my brother would be, whenever Friday the 13th was on, and you know, the date, that was a special date way back when we were kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always fascinated me. It was taboo, you know, because my mother, no. But yet my brother can watch it. It's like, what the hell is this? So that piqued my interest in Carrie, and not going to go on about that. But yeah, Jason and Carrie are really what brought me into horror. So, yeah.
All right. Well, for me, with my list, this also, it was easy, but it was also challenging, because I was really deciding on whether or not I was picking what I thought was the better movie or the movie that impacted me the most. And so I went with the movie that impacted me the most, and that I've watched the most too, obviously. So there's no doubt about it. Obviously, I had to have Friday the 13th as my number one as well. This was literally the movie that got me into horror. Being able to watch this movie, it was one of those nights where they were playing horror movies, and I saw that it was on, and I was afraid of horror movies, and I decided to try to watch it. Got through it, and of course, and I've said this before, but once we got to the end, that was it. That was it. When I made it through this scene, you know, with Alice getting jumped by, you know, little Jason, mutant Jason, I was like, man, I survived. I made it, and there was no turning back. And Friday has been my favorite horror franchise ever since then. It is a great movie in its own right. And Coriander and I were just talking about it the other day. You know, they definitely had the inspiration from Halloween, the success from Halloween, and Sean Cunningham basically told Victor Miller, let's rip off Halloween. So Victor Miller wrote it up, got it all situated. But the difference is that I think they took some of the ideas, but they really kind of traveled in their own lane. You know, getting Tom Savini on board to do all the practical work, which was just groundbreaking at the time, and even still great stuff today. And so they focused a lot on these, setting up these kill scenes, these death scenes, and also with Friday being a whodunit. I mean, we didn't know who the killer was until the end, so it was very, very mysterious in that sense too. But it's just a great movie. It's still a favorite of mine in horror and as movies go. So it had to be number one on my list. So number one is Friday the 13th from 1980. All right.
Nice.
All right, guys. So there we have it. Our top five. Some really good picks. Some of them we kind of knew we were going to pick. I was pretty sure that we were all going to pick Friday the 13th as number one.
That's funny.
And obviously, Kill, I knew you'd have The Shining in yours too. Coriander, you had some really interesting picks, and I think putting the Changeling in there was an interesting one for me as well. So good stuff, man.
Yeah,
good stuff. All right, well, you guys watching, definitely let us know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your top 5 horror films from the year 1980? Let us know in the comment section, and then we can have a discussion about it. Also, please hit the like button. It helps to support us. We'd really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, this is the time to do it. Do it, and we can continue talking about all these great movies, and especially from the horror genre together. Also, if you'd like to become a channel member, hit the join button next to the subscribe button, and you can get exclusive perks, watch-alongs, hangouts, and all that great stuff. So anyways, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Nightwatch. Peace.
Peace.